Good morning, friends, and welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we are going to take an early winter garden tour. Yes, we are officially in winter now, and we are going to take a little tour of the gardens because I like to show you our North Carolina Zone 8A gardens in all the seasons, right? Because I think sometimes we think of gardening and we think of, summertime and spring and tons of gorgeous flowers and everything is just looking spectacular. Well, you know what? We still have gardens in the wintertime too. So I like to take these opportunities to kind of show you how the garden transitions from season to season and to give you an idea of maybe what your garden looks like, because I know that we have gardeners of all different experience levels. We have some brand new baby gardeners and we have some very well seasoned, very mature gardeners. And so I just want to show you what things look like in our North Carolina Zone 8A garden, because maybe yours is going to have some characteristics of the same, and maybe that kind of scares you or you think something's wrong when it's actually perfectly normal. I share my messes and my successes because if you are a gardener, you're going to have messes and successes. There is no such thing as perfection. I say perfection is only found in the dictionary. There can be perfect spots, but as far as like the entire garden looking perfect at one time, y'all, let go of the dream. You're only going to set yourself up for some disappointment. So we're going to start here along the driveway. It is a busy morning here, so you might see some traveling going back and forth. And so I just want to show some things with you. So we're going to kind of take it section by section. Here is along the side of the house. This is one of two of my shade beds here at the house, and it's because the house gives it shade. To give you an idea, if you have eucharis, they're going to be evergreen for you here in North Carolina in the southeast. That's why we love them. So this is Dale's strain. This is a beautiful one that Jerry started several years ago from seed. It is doing great. Love this thing, and it has gotten nice and big. Of course, we have the shroomies. We have these available, not this exact one, but sweet little yard art. I love me some yard art. So we're going to see that throughout the garden as well. Your panicle hydrangeas, right? They're going to still have their flowers on them that are dried. We don't prune these until here in the southeast till about mid-February. Your panicles, of course, bloom on new growth. That's why I love them, because I'm guaranteed to have flowers. So you can see this is White Wedding from our friends at Southern Living. Nice, tight, upright stems, still holding on to all of those flower heads. Yes, they're dried. Yes, they're brown. Not a problem. They give us some really fun winter interest in the garden. Now, this is such a fun surprise, y'all. Look, this is my white by the gate camellia. This is a japonica, meaning that it's not supposed to bloom until like January, February, March, that area. You know it's a japonica because it's got these big, huge leaves on it. White by the gate, man, she's an overachiever. Look, she's already blooming. Pure white flowers. You can see we had some blooms before it turned 18 degrees and those got fried, but the buds were still very viable, and so we have some flowers. Love it. So your camellias, depending on what variety they are, like your japonicas, tend to be those more shade loving. So this garden itself gets morning sun and afternoon shade. Some of your sasanquas that we'll see in a little bit, they can take full sun. It all depends on the variety. When you purchase your camellia, you should know what the name of the variety is. If you don't have a tag or you don't have a bunch of detailed information, do a quick little Google search and you will find out information as far as like its mature size, because they will get different sizes. White by the gate, I am training to go on a trellis. It does not have to be on a trellis. This is what I am choosing to do, and to have it give me some nice big structure here on the side of the house that is we have a big blank space right here, and so I need to fill that in, and white by the gate will be a great one to do that. So just check out all your information. Your hellebores, so Lenten roses. This one is has been here for quite a while. We do not have any buds yet on this. Lenten roses get their name because they typically will bloom in this Lent season, right? So the season of Lent, which is in spring, Easter. So it's got some great foliage on it. What's going to happen is this older foliage that has that damage on it, totally, perfectly normal. So that's going to start to lay down because your new foliage is starting to emerge. And then deep down in there, we might have a flower bud that will pop up here in the next couple of months. So your Lenten roses, totally normal that they're going to start to lay down and then pick up as their new foliage comes along. Quick little update on the window box that has the Ascot rainbow euphorbia, the everwillow grass, and then the euchera, all doing well. I think I've watered it one time because of course we get consistent rain here in the southeast in the wintertime, and so they're doing great. This container will be an evergreen for me. Once we get into warmer temperatures come, you know, late winter, early spring, of course we'll see lots of new growth on that, but I'm very happy with that. If you still have hostas that have not been cleaned up, this is probably what your hostas look like. Completely normal. Remember, your hostas are going to be what we call like an herbaceous perennial, meaning that all of this is going to, quote, die and go away. So at this point, you really should be up so you can get in there. Oh, Brenna's, nope, it's not a rabbit. Nope, no rabbit. We're good. Can you go play? Okay. So you can just come in here and pull it back, and if you have a faithful companion, I'm sure they'll check it out to make sure that there's nothing in there that you shouldn't have. So it just literally comes out of the ground, y'all, because this is the great thing about waiting this late is that you can just pull it, clean it up. Your root system is right here, very happy, get all this cleaned up, and then boom, there you go. I love having some evergreen. This bed tends to be one that has a ton of perennials in it. And most of them are that herbaceous perennial, meaning they die back completely to the ground, and in the wintertime they go away. I don't mind that this does not have a ton of like evergreen interest in it. It really doesn't bother me. But one of those that is a beautiful evergreen is the holly fern. This holly fern, if you are a follower of ours, you probably are familiar with this. This is what I call Annette's holly fern, because I took a clump of this holly fern from my sweet friend Annette's garden in Texas. 5-6 years ago, and you know, that's what gardeners do when you visit a friend and you're like, "Ooh, I like that plant, can I have a little bit of it?" And I would say 99.9% of the time everybody's going to go, "Yes, please have some." So this is Annette's holly fern. Love it. Again, what's going to happen, just like the eucheras and your hellebores in the wintertime, yes, this foliage will start to look a little ratty, right? And then so you'll see, right, it'll take on some damage. Maybe you get some burn, totally fine. In the springtime, this older foliage is going to start to lay down and all your new foliage is going to come up. That's when we go ahead and prune it. Don't want to prune it now. We're just going to leave it and enjoy that evergreen structure to it. More hostas, right? Even my fern, this was the y'all love this one. It is such a fun little, has those fronds on the ends of it. And you can see, yep, she is zapped back. I don't know that she's ready to be pulled out like the, yep, she's still holding on a little bit. Like the hostas are ready to just be pulled. The foliage is all pulled out. This was holding on a little bit. You can either go ahead and clip it or you can wait, not a problem whatsoever. And then of course, your macrophylla hydrangeas, yep, they're looking sad right now. That would be the quote downside of your hydrangeas, is that in the wintertime, they turn to sticks. And then of course, like we did this evergreen container here as well with your autumn ferns and your feather falls grass. And then of course, my little wink and nudge to a snowy scene here in December with the little faux greenery that I got at the craft store. So there you go. That is that flower bed. And then of course here the past couple of weeks we have been working, well, not even just weeks, it's been a labor of love for a while now, the new terrace garden. So the only thing left that I have to do for the terrace garden, I have 2 more sets of bulbs that I need to put in. One is the yellow tulips. I have 700 yellow tulips that are going to be planted from right here where the lamb's ear is all the way down to the Roman candle. So this whole area is going to have those 700 yellow tulips in there. This bed is about roughly 3.5, 4 feet wide. And so I have learned that, of course, with our grass and maintaining the grass is to really, I've got to be able to bring these plants in so that when it's time for Chandler to come cut the grass and edge the grass, he doesn't have plants hanging over the side. So that is something that I kind of have to shift my mindset on. So with those tulips, I will make sure that they come more forward and that he has plenty of room on the back side so that the plants aren't impeding the grass and he's able to get in there and get it all cleaned up. So the reason that I have not planted those tulips yet is because it was a last minute purchase and I had to pre-chill them. So they're hanging out in the fridge at the nursery, so they have to hang out for 10 weeks. So after, it'll be after, like after Christmas, but before the new year. As long as your ground is not frozen, you can plant them. And so that is the deal. But you really need to get them in the ground. I would say, I'm pushing it going into the early January, but they will be fine. And so there you go. So we have those. And then the other the other bulbs that I'm going to put in are, I started thinking, and I was visiting Color Blend's website, and I was like, you know what? It would be really fun to put some more like really short little perennial bulbs here in the around the steps, because the steps going up to the chicken coop from the new gardens, they don't have any bulbs in them. While they have lots of fun evergreen ground cover interest, I want to have maybe some early spring color just popping up through here. So I ordered some white squill, and this will be a perennial bulb for me. They only get to be about, like, I think in that 4 to 6 inches tall. They're an early bloomer. They will naturalize. They are white with a little bit of hint of blue in them, and they're going to be so much fun. And they're really tiny little bulbs, so they're little skinny bulbs. So I can take like my 5-inch Jenny's auger and drill holes and put maybe like, I'd have to go back and look, but I want to say like maybe 5 or 6 bulbs in there. And so I will just have lots of fun putting them in between. So like this Delosperma, like I could put, a clump here, and I could put a clump between the ajuga and all through here. And then even going up the side here, all up in here, and just dot them, because that way we'll have that fun natural look, because there'll be like drifts of them and it'll be great. Also the snowflakes, because remember we planted 100 snowflakes in this area and below in the cottage garden. So that will be, they tend to be very early spring bloomers too. So we'll have those lovely pops of white in here. Very excited about it. Give you an update on the shrubs and everything here in the cottage garden. Remember we planted the better boxwoods. I want to show you, we have a little bit of winter damage. So if you see this, it's like the light almost looks blonde at this point. What that is this was new growth. So we had some new growth on the boxwoods, and then when we got down to 18 degrees from multiple nights in the low 20s, that just got burned. It's completely normal. The plant is fine. They'll eventually just fall off. But you can see up here, these were more mature leaves on them that have been hardened off, and they are absolutely fine. So this is the Babylon. There's several of the better boxwoods. They're going to be that disease resistance, right, to boxwood blight and all the things. So if you notice, if you have some newly, or it doesn't even have to be newly planted, but if you had shrubs that had new growth on them and then it went into winter, they got fried, it is totally fine, y'all. They will be just fine. And everybody else, though, is doing really well. I do want to show you my fire chiefs, because the fire chief arborvitaes, of course, are the ones that will turn a lovely bronze color. Nope, Brenna, no. Brenna thinks that the flagstone is her toy, and it's not. So she'll take it and take it away. Look at that face. How could you say no to that face? Well, Mama can. And so your fire chiefs, they'll take this gorgeous bronze look to them. Some people don't like it. They think that the plant looks dead. I personally love it. And these fire chiefs will get to be like a 3x4. So they'll come right to the edge and fill in here. But when you look down in there, you've got all of that pretty bright growth. And so fire chiefs give me lots of good winter interest. Nice evergreen shrub. Love that. The double white Perfecto Mundos doing really well. They have handled those 18-degree nights and they are hanging out and just doing great, as are the camellias. Because remember, we're underneath this tree canopy. So when you can plant some of those shrubs like these two camellias, so you've got the October Magic Rose right here, and then it was the pink snow right here. So yes, there is a little bit of damage, right? Totally fine. The overall plant is very happy, very healthy. We even still have some little buds. Now, whether they'll pop out and flower with this pink snow, you don't know. So it just depends on the weather. But everybody is doing really nice. But when you can plant them underneath some trees, this will give you that winter protection, right? So very important when you have those shrubs maybe that need a little bit of protection in the wintertime. When you plant them near a tree line, that will, I know it's crazy, but just having those trees insulates and protects that plant from maybe like the really cold winter winds or like a heavy frost or a freeze. It gives it some protection. So they are all doing really well. The garden boxes, of course, are planted. They've got, what did I say, 750? Something like that. I don't remember how many bulbs are in here. So they're just hanging out. We've gotten some good rain. Everything is nice and wet. And these modern garden boxes, they're the extra tall ones from our friends at Vago, are doing great. So they're just hanging out. Literally, we'll do nothing to them all winter long, and we'll just wait for spring and let them go ahead and pop up and be filled with all those gorgeous bulbs. The rose, remember, this is Rise Up Amberness, so she has gotten planted. Again, if you notice on your roses, because mine were putting on new growth for a long time, right here is kind of floppy and downturned. That was that new growth that just got fried. So not worrying about it one bit. As far as pruning roses here in North Carolina, you want to prune your roses before they start to push out new growth. And for us, that really is can be like late January. You'll start to see those little swells on the plant. Typically they have like a reddish hue to them, and that's where they're going to push out that new growth. So we want to prune our roses before they flush out with all that brand new growth. All roses, minus some old heirloom climbers, will bloom on new growth. So all roses, minus those heirloom climbers, benefit greatly from being pruned. So if you have knockouts, if you have David Austins, if you have a climbing rose, any kind of rose, minus some of those, like I said, I'm just reinforcing here, those old heirloom climbers, they need to be pruned because they bloom on new growth. So if you've got this massive rose that's not blooming very well and it looks really spindly and it's not full of new growth, cut it back. So coming out of winter, going into spring, before it flushes out with new growth, whack it, y'all. I don't think you could ever really over prune a rose. From my experience, it is really hard to do. So do that, and I promise you will be rewarded with beautiful flowers. And you can even prune it throughout the season because we have such a long growing season. I am learning that once we get that gorgeous, really big, huge spring flush of flowers, I go ahead and cut them back by like a third or a fourth, get them nice and tight. They'll put on tons of new growth and they just keep flowering. So that's just a little bit of rose care information. Now, I told you messes and successes here. So full disclosure, right? The successes, look at these anemones and the poppies. They are just, oh my goodness, they are some happy plants. So that is what all this green is. They're not weeds. They are those anemones and poppies. The difference I can tell is because this is an anemone, right? So that foliage is an anemone. And then this is that poppy. So when I came through here and planted them, I used the 5-inch power planter, Jenny's Edition, and just came through and just randomly planted them. and they are doing really well. I don't need to worry about them. They have gone, like I said, through multiple 18, 17, low 20-degree nights, and they are perfectly fine. So if you have some bulbs popping up, I even have some daffodils coming up. They're fine. Leave them alone. There's nothing you need to do. They can handle it, and they will be just fine. So they are good. So that's definitely is a very happy success that is working. Okay, so a mess. It appears very clearly that I lost my a couple of my shrubs in here. So these, I have 3 of them. I can't get up there right now, but you can see that this is that soft touch. I think it's Touch of Gold holly. Yeah, so I lost all 3 of them up here. I honestly do not know why. It is the craziest thing. I don't know if it's because when I planted them, it was in that hot part of the season and I just did not keep the water on them as well as I should. I don't know, but they're gone. I mean, you can see they are toasty. They have lost all of their leaves and they are gone. What's crazy is I don't think it's the plant, because right over here, I have got 2 that I planted a little bit later, and they are just as happy can be. So it's probably more of a gardener issue than it is a plant issue. So at some point we will replace those. The loropetalums are doing well, the gardenia is doing well, everything else is doing really well. It was just those 3 that I lost. So you can have garden for years and years and years, and you still are going to lose plants. So I think that's one of my best pieces of advice for my new gardeners is you're going to kill a plant. Just go ahead and accept the facts, so that way when it happens, you're not completely defeated and you think you have a black thumb. No, even people who have gardened for years, who own a nursery, who do this professionally, we still lose plants and we still kill plants, and it's okay. You learn from it and you move on. A great success right now is the unique stone planter right here. Remember, we have the Goshiki. This is a sweet osmanthus. It's really fun because it is a variegated osmanthus, and it has a beautiful foliage on it. You're going to get lots of different color on this. It's hanging out. Yes, see, this even has a little bit of burn on it as well, because that was new foliage. So don't freak out if some of your plants will have a little bit of burn on them. It's okay. So we had the Goshiki, and then I just filled it in with some sweet. We've got violas in here, we have got creeping jenny, we have got some ivy, and I tucked in some of the anemones. So you can see that the anemones are in here, so that way it brings a consistency and flow. So we have the same anemones in this container as we have in the landscape. So when these are all blooming, they will bloom together and be just quite a lovely show. You will notice that I left a section here open because at the time I wasn't sure if I wanted to put daffodils right here or what I wanted to do. I do know that come springtime, so for me it'll be probably like mid to late April, that I will go ahead and plant these with my summer annuals. I don't know exactly what I want to do here. I'm thinking what I really would like to do is to do like the mini Vista, whether I do the mini Vista white, maybe I do the new mini Vista plum veined, which is a gorgeous one, but do a mass planting all the way down so that they're just nice and soft and just kind of fall over a little bit onto the wall. If you wanted like big trailing, if you wanted big color, then you would do like a Vista. So if you wanted to do that classic Vista bubblegum, you could fill it in here, and those Vistas are really going to take over and be a huge display. So they'll come up and then they would hang over the side. I don't know that I want to do that. I think I'm more on the mini side, and so it'll be a little bit more controlled. And then I really want to come through here and plant some of the portulaca. So like the Mojave portulaca, it would be stunning because those Mojaves love the heat, they love neglect, and they bloomed all the way up until it got 18 degrees. And it would be gorgeous little pops because my anemones will start to die back, and then I can put the Mojaves between them. So that's kind of my thought process on that. Moving on up to where the chicken coop is, and an update on this osmanthus. This is the one, remember, I rescued it. It was from behind right here where the green giants are. And so it was back there, and yeah, she's doing great. She's hanging in there, doing really well. We've actually got some new little flower buds right there, so yay. So she is very happy. Figgy, so this is a fig tree that came from a cutting from my parents' house, which came from a cutting from my grandmother's house. Have no clue as far as like what variety it is. It's just, we call her Figgy. And so Figgy needs a haircut. She's never been trimmed, so I will do that later this winter. Go in there and thin out some of the branches and give it a nice little trim to keep it nice and tight and compact. So we will do that later this winter. As with my holly trees. So these are Nellie Stevens hollies. I have 3 of them through here. These were planted well before we even thought about putting the chicken coop in here. And I need to come through because I want these to be nice and tight and compact. Not that I am trying to restrict their growth. That's why I put them here, is so that they can grow to their full potential and be just gorgeous and happy. But I want to make sure that they're nice and tight and compact as they're growing, and not to be thin. So I will come through again, like I said, late winter, early spring, and I'm just going to give it a trim. So I'll take out maybe some of this top growth right here and give it an overall shape. You do that going into spring, going into the growing season. That way you're rejuvenating the plant, and it'll push out all this new growth and be nice and tight and happy. Speaking of happy, the girls are very happy. They are doing well in their chicken coop. It's so funny. Whenever we come out of the house or something and we're in the yard, they hear us talking, and you can hear them talking back to us. So they're very chatty little birds. And so, yeah, so they're very curious as to what we're doing right now. A plant that I have been really impressed with is this spirea. This is Dolly. And look how well Dolly has held onto her foliage. And it is a beautiful color to it. Now, y'all, I have to say, it is late December. We, like I said, multiple nights in 18, low 20, cold winds that have come through. And it is still holding on to this foliage. It is great. Now, yes, it's starting to fall off as I'm sitting here rubbing it. It's coming off. But for it to keep this foliage for this long, the candy corns have lost all of theirs. The doozies have lost all of theirs. But Dolly has really held on to her foliage. We have 3 of them in here, and all 3 of them have done a great job holding on to that foliage. So very, very excited about that. And then, of course, El Nino, right? So El Nino is a deciduous. This is a desert orchid, relatively new from our friends at Proven Winners. We were selling the hound out of this online and at the nursery. If you are interested in El Nino, because it was, like I said, it was one of our best sellers, go ahead and you can go to the website. You can hit notify me when available, and then we'll be doing those pre-orders and you can have it. If you have a warm, sunny spot, this is what you need. It is a gorgeous small tree that is a rapid grower. So we planted this as a small gallon, not this summer, last summer. So it's just over a year old. It's not even 18 months old in the ground. And y'all, from a small 1 gallon to this, it is every bit of, I would say 8 feet tall. Really fast grower. So what I will do, and again, coming into late winter, early spring, is give it a trim. So the more that you trim it, the thicker it's going to get. So you can see, like for example, this stem right here, this branch, was all last year. This was a new growth last year because it was not here, goes all the way down. So this was new. I had pruned like this branch, and this branch was from the previous year's growth, and even that one right there. And you can see how it branches out. So then what I will do to make sure it stays nice and stocky is come maybe here and go ahead and prune it here, right? Because I want a nice thick plant. And so you can prune it to however it is that you kind of want it to grow. If you want it to have it more of that shrub habit, then you absolutely just, don't prune it. I mean, well, you keep pruning it if you want it to have more of a tree. You can do whatever you want to. Very easy to prune it, and it does really well. The annuals, the winter fall annuals here are hanging out and doing quite lovely. Of course, you've got the cabbages and the mustards and the artemisia. Everybody is doing really well. The euphorbia, just doing great. And you can see right here, like this is the Ms. America mustard, and you can see where this piece right here, this leaf, was growing right to the edge of the the chicken coop, and so they've been pecking at it and then having a lovely meal, which is totally fine. They absolutely can do that. And so yeah, so the girls are doing well, everybody's doing well here, and yeah, so we just kind of hang on. My maintenance on this is like nothing. I don't do anything to it because we get tons of rain. What I do need to do is come here and take out the portulaca. Now, this is the portulaca like I was talking about, and it did really well all the way up to the first freeze. Even my mangave overall is hanging out really well. It's done well to have those 18-degree nights. Yes, it's got some burn on it, but overall it's fine. Now, if you want to ensure that your mangaves go ahead and overwinter, then you need to probably protect them because they could get some foliage damage during those cold winter months. Everything else, though, is just hanging out, and like I said, doing really, really well up here. Just continuing to hang out and do its thing. So there you go. All right, let's move on down to more of the backyard, kind of give you an update on everything there. Coming into the backyard and the forest pansy bed, walking around to the patio. I think we have some good structure here for the winter. Everybody is doing quite lovely. Yes, there is definitely work that can be done, but overall, when you look at it, there is structure, there is interest, there are things that are popping and being very happy. Just as an FYI, y'all, this is One Feather Falls. One Feather Falls grass. It is a Carex. Love this plant. I think it's probably pretty clear as to why I love it. And dear heavens, it is such a fun plant. Of course, you have got the Florida Sunshines right here. That is an Elysium, beautiful, bright evergreen. But yeah, we've got to come in here. We've got to clean up. We've got hostas and ferns and toad lilies and all sorts of things that can be cleaned up in here. There's a couple of weeds. Obviously, there's I've got the planter that I could put some violas or pansies in there to give me some flowers. But yeah, overall, everything's doing well. Of course, Generous Gardener, she still is untamed. It's fine, whatever. It is what it is, people. And then coming through, right? So my David Austins we talked about, these will be just like this until that mid to late January, and we will give them a hard prune, and they will be very, very happy. Now, we had planted the anemones and ranunculuses in there, right where Brenna walked through. Out, Brenna, out. And then of course we planted some shocks and struts right here. I ran out of bulbs. I was going to bring the shocks and struts right here. Well, guess what, y'all? When Jerry was planting the signature garden with the Globemaster alliums, he had about 15 of them left over because I overbought. I overestimated the spacing on them. So I'm going to put those 15 Globemasters right here. How fun will that be? I think it'll be really cool. So I haven't planted them yet. I'll just use my 5-inch power planter, get those dug nice and deep. I think it's like 7 inches. You put them down, plop them in, and leave them alone, and they'll be great. I'm very excited about that. Update on Edgeworthia. Y'all, the Edgeworthia is going to be unbelievable come February. So the Edgeworthia is this shrub right here that has all those little white, quote, they're not flowers, these are the flower buds on them. And Edgeworthia is a paper bush, and it, oh my gosh, clearly loves this spot. It is not 2 years old here, planted as a 3-gallon. Can you see all that new growth down there in the center? But Edgeworthia, these are the flower buds. They will open up and do like an orange flower that are very like little trumpet shaped, downturned, but the fragrance is insanely delicious. So very happy about that. And then your Sugar Shack button bush. This is a great native shrub from Proven Winners. This blooms on new growth. Just to show you an idea of where I pruned it. So like for example, can you see right here? That's where I pruned it last year. And then look, this was all new growth this year. So that can handle being pruned really, really well. And it's quite a vigorous plant. And then my yin and yang viburnums. Proven Winners sadly kind of discontinued this shrub because it was predominantly for our southern gardens and it just wasn't one of their big sellers. There's nothing wrong with the plant. It's one of my all-time favorite plants. So one of them's yin and one of them's yang. I don't know which one is which, but they're right here. These are a type of David viburnum, evergreen. I mean, look y'all, you've got this gorgeous green foliage, these red stems. These are flower buds. So in the spring, this is where it will bloom. Love this plant. So if you ever see a yin or yang that's out there still, grab it. You will love it. And then Little Quickfire. Little Quickfire is not so little right here, and she is massive. And you can see, I mean, she's every bit of that 5 feet, growing into the yin and yang. So I'll prune them back hard, and after these flower, I will go ahead and prune them back pretty severe because they are quite happy here. But I love the fact that they are nice and tall, because when we're sitting on the patio, we get coverage, right? I know that the sun's not cooperating totally, but you've got the viburnums, you've got the hydrangea right here. This is the white chiffon rose of Sharon. So in the 3 seasons out of the year, this is a beautiful wall. So when we're sitting back here, you cannot even see the garden shed, right? It is a gorgeous privacy screening for us, which is when you build your house in the middle of an open field, that's a very good thing. Everybody's doing really, really well right here. So these are those white shishi camellias I was talking about, the sasanquas, that love the full sun, and they have done really well. So depending on your variety of camellia, they may take that full all-day sun, like those October Magics from Southern Living, or maybe they need some filtered sun. Coming back here, so let me show you the example. Remember we were talking about the double play dolly spireas and how they were holding onto their foliage really well? Well, here we have, this is doozy, right? So double play doozy. Now I love this shrub. No knocking doozy. Doozy is a great one, but you can see how much more defoliated it is compared to dolly. And then of course we have the incredible hydrangeas back there. They too will bloom on new growth. These are arborescents or smooth hydrangeas, so they will get a trim that, again, that late January, February mark. Late winter, from going late winter into early spring, is a big time in the garden as far as pruning things and taking care of things, because I do the vast majority of my pruning in that coming out of winter going into spring, more than any other time of the year. So that is a big deal. To give you an update, because y'all were with us when we were talking about this the other day. Well, it's been a minute now, a couple weeks ago, I guess now. We had this infestation of briars, and so these are the briars from Hades. And the reason as I say that is because, can you see how many thorns are on these? And then look, they spread by runners, and they are everywhere. We had sprayed with an herbicide. It really didn't do anything, but they come here all the way into this fairy trail, and then even back going into my blueberry bushes. It is awful. So what I'm thinking that we're gonna have to do is probably our first method is we're going to trim them to the ground and then paint them with the brush and stump killer. We're going to see what happens that. And then as the spring comes and they start to come back, hopefully they'll die. But if they do keep coming back, then we'll just have to stay on top of them over and over again, because they will overtake the garden, and oh my gosh, they are a pain in the rear. My fairy trails, I do have those fairy trails in here. That is that cascading hydrangea from our friends at Proven Winners. They have not done really well here, and they are rated as for full sun. The sun is not the problem. The problem is in the winter time that we get those cold winter winds, because north is here and that blows. And so as these start to emerge and put on new growth in late winter, early spring, those winds come through and kill back the plant. So what my goal is to dig them up and then plant them in a location, say like, I don't know if I'm gonna plant them here, but under the tree line. How we were talking about, it's important to give some of those shrubs some protection from those winter winds. That would be an area where we can do that. So we could do it here, we could do it up in the woodland garden, at the chicken coop, all sorts of different areas that we could do that. Here, they're just way too exposed, and so we need to move them because they just don't flower. We had some last year in the pines hanging out waiting on us, and they were spectacular. Like, they were in their containers, but they were underneath the pines, and then come late spring, early summer, they were blooming, and oh my gosh, they were gorgeous. That was the ideal growing condition. Not here where they're exposed. And then to wrap up around here on the front, of course, these are more anemones. You were with me. So this is anemones for us are going to be a great perennial bulb, right? You can see we need to come in here and do a little weeding. So when we overseeded the grass, this is some of that extra grass, but the anemones in here are doing really well. So some of these were left over from last year, and then some of the ones are ones that I planted this year. So the vast majority are anemones. Yes, we have a couple of little winter weeds in here. Like this is a winter weed. This is an anemones, right? So if you're in the southeast like I am, I think sometimes that the winter weeds are more of a problem than the summer weeds, because oh my gosh, all the rain we get, that just feeds those weeds, and they live their best life in the wintertime here. And then of course our dwarf horseman, this is a blue Atlas cedar. Y'all, it is living its best life right here. It is thick and full. I don't think it's going to get much taller. It just keeps getting thicker and wider, which I love and adore, because we do have a window back there, and it gives us some privacy in that window, which is needed. So, and then of course the tea olives, and the tea olives here have been here for a couple of years, and they are blooming. We can sit on the porch and I will get some whiffs of the fragrance of these guys, and just absolutely adore those plants. And then, yeah, your daylilies. So if your daylilies look like my daylilies, right, they've been fried back, you can go in there, you can pull out the foliage, totally fine. Yeah, and everybody is, that's what happens with the daylilies. So we can go in there, clean that foliage up, very similar to your hostas. So you're gonna lose all that foliage, clean it up. It's perfect time to mulch, right? Because the foliage is all gone, so you can go in there, lay down your mulch, and then comes early spring, all that new foliage emerges, and then you've got your pretty mulch down. And then there you go. All right, my friends, so that's what the gardens here at the house look like. And now that we are officially in winter. As always, we so appreciate you. Y'all have an amazing day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.